There we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. And I can say that just because it's just turned 12 o'clock. And I never really know what to say at 12 o'clock exactly. But welcome, if you are here. Thank you for joining us nice and early. I'm here with Carole. Hi, Carole.
Hi, hello, everybody.
Carole, there's always like a 90-second period where I just ramble and mumble along a little bit to give people a chance to join us. Just because it's tradition now, but I would like people to join, and nobody ever joins on time, right? So giving them a moment just to come in and get in here. I guess if you are here already, please add to the comment section on this event page. Hello, and where you're from. Also, you might have to say a name as well, just because sometimes that doesn't come up. But please, get involved. The more comments, the more engagement we have, the better questions there'll be. So please feel free to comment along. And this should be a really interesting conversation. And I'm really excited to get going with this. And the first day of Stress Awareness Week, which is going to be exciting. And I'm glad. I don't know, Carole, am I the first interview you had for the week?
You're my first interview, so congratulations.
Thank you. No pressure either. Can you imagine how much pressure I've now got on me?
You're setting a standard today, Richard. You're setting no pressure in the slightest.
Yeah, no pressure at all. After you just said that as well. But look, I've done this enough now. I feel like I should be okay.
You have.
We'll get started, Carole. Look, before I throw the mic over to you and get you to introduce yourself, I will get my introductions out of the way for people who don't know who I am. My name's Rich. I am a high-performing executive coach. I help leaders and teams create high performance within their workplace through different lessons. The main one being lessons from sport. And helping people understand how they can take those lessons and implement those both as leaders and as teams. But I'm also the founder of a wellbeing education company called Employees Health, which is what's connected to this podcast called the Wellbeing Chat. Just getting professionals like Carole, like others, to come on and talk about wellbeing, talk about how organizations can improve their health and wellbeing in their either from an organization, team, or individual standpoint. So, look, that's me done. If you have any questions, drop me a line. Carole, over to you. Please, could you introduce yourself? Tell me who you are and what you do.
Okay, just as well, just lucky I know. Okay, first of all, Richard, thank you very much indeed for the invitation to present on my first interview, which is Stress Awareness Week. Now, you may wonder as to when Stress Awareness Week started. Well, let me just take you back a little way, which is in 1998. I was working with the International Stress Management Association, had this idea of creating a movement or creating an event called Stress Awareness Day, which is exactly what we did. And we used to travel around London, we used to travel around different parts of the United Kingdom, and that was Stress Awareness Day. Well, 20 years later, in order to talk about Stress Awareness Day and in order to actually recognize Stress Awareness Day and its 20th anniversary, we created, on behalf of the International Stress Management Association, we created International Stress Awareness Week, and it is now international, which is very exciting, seriously exciting. Not just this country, because of course, stress is a concept. Stress is something that we will need to talk about right throughout the world. But let me just say, first and foremost, is that this is not just the one day we need to talk about it. We also need to talk about it right throughout the year. So my role is I am chair of the International Stress Management Association as well, founder of the day and the week, and I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Brilliant. Sounds like you've quite the journey. But let's start at where it all started. What motivated you to start this movement?
Well, it was like one of those, it was an idea. We were talking, I was working at the International Stress Management Association, and we had one of our executive meetings. And I remember saying, and I thought at the time it seemed like a good idea, why don't we have a national stress awareness day? And they said, oh, it seems like a good idea, Carole. And I said, well, okay, who's going to do that? And it's a bit like, well, you are. So, and I said, well, how much is my budget? And they said, like, zero. So anyway, even with a zero budget, we managed to get ourselves onto radio and TV and right across the world, which was very, very exciting. We had a bus tour going around London. It stayed stationary in the city of London, where we had therapists, counsellors, we ran mini training courses. I have to say it was innovative at that time. Now, I've got to say, so it's not quite so innovative today, but I'm not so sure you'd get a bus going around London. You might do. But it was really very innovative at the time. Why did I do it? It's because it was important to raise the profile of stress, raise the profile of mental health and well-being. And how could we do that? And ISMA, International Stress Management Association, ISMA provided the vehicle for us to actually do that. And it's exactly the same today.
Yeah, I love that. And I think your innovative idea then probably would be a very innovative idea now, because nobody's doing it. And so I can imagine you driving around a big red bus in London today. That's awesome.
It was exactly so. The big red bus, which is what it was, did exactly that. The media came to us because here we had, and it was innovative at the time, here we had a bus traveling around London, had to get the right place for us to be able to stay where it could stay, where it could park, and people came to us, and the media loved it. So it's a bit like, can we hear about stress? Yeah, fine, join us on the bus. So would it be the same today? It's not, things aren't, I'm always trying to find new things and new ideas. So this moment in time, we have a stress summit during the week, which we'll talk about a bit later. So I haven't got any big red buses. Today, there's no big red bus, but the memories are very fond and have loads and loads of pictures going back all that time ago.
Yeah, I love it. And you've recently received an MBE.
Yes,
congratulations.
I am more than proud. I'm actually still gobsmacked. So to get that just the beginning of May, when I received that, I heard that from the Cabinet Office, and still yet to have my investiture, which hasn't happened as yet. So haven't got me holding up the medal at the moment. Very, very proud, because I have been working. A lot of people do a huge amount of work, and I really felt that it was something. I'm more than proud. I'm super proud, and I feel very humbled by the fact that I have an MBE, and what has it done for me? It's given me greater incentive. If I needed any more, it gives me a greater incentive and motivation to actually do what I believe in, which is do our very, very best to reduce stress and improve mental health and well-being, and to shout about it, and to build as well healthy workplace cultures. So if you like the campaign trail and the movement, I feel equally as strong about that today as I did all those years ago. So the MBE, I am really seriously proud.
Yeah, and just shows the amount of work that you put in over the last 25 plus years, right? And it's just that recognition. So congratulations. But have you thought about what this means for the stress awareness movement?
Well, in terms of what we're doing, it's very important. What's so important about the stress awareness? We call it a movement, but it's a campaign. The campaign is a journey. I think you spoke about journey when you started introducing here. We're on a journey. Well, I don't believe we'll ever, and I'm sometimes asked this, will we ever get to the point when we don't need Stress Awareness Week? And I'm going to say probably not. But here's the but. We need to make sure that Stress Awareness Week isn't just the 1 week. So it starts today, 3rd to the 7th of November. That's Stress Awareness Week. Well, our responsibility around the world, not just saying, in the UK, around the world, is to raise the profile of stress, to help people be supported when they're actually going through stress, and to help industry to actually help employees who want to actually do their very, very best to reduce it. So what does it mean to the organization, to the campaign? It's imperative. The more we talk about it, the more we talk about healthy workplace cultures, the more important it is. So therefore, we want employees to feel that we're supporting them. The campaign supports them right throughout the year. We're talking about 24/7, well, not literally in the middle of the night, but we're talking about making sure that the campaign is there for them. And we don't want people to feel that they can't speak up and speak out, because that's where a healthy workplace culture comes into it. We want people to feel, I can speak up, I can speak out. So what does that equate to now, Richard? It equates to a psychologically safe organization, which is where you want to be. So if you're experiencing stress in any form or other. You need to feel confident that it's not seen as a black mark against you. It's not seen as going to go on your personal records and people aren't going to want to, and people feel awkward about that. And it's not going to detract from what it is that you're doing. People need to, that psychologically safe, it's exactly the right word. People need to feel secure, safe, that they can trust the organization, that they can speak up and speak out.
Yeah, 100%. Because stress is a normal thing. And I guess this leads in really well into my next question. What is stress? Talk to us about the concept of stress.
Say it again.
What is stress?
What is stress? Oh, okay. Well, there's some very common misconceptions about stress, and the people who are watching this may actually also experience this. So if I say to an audience, do you think stress is good for you? Many people will say things like, put my hand up. Yeah, I think a little bit of stress is good for me. And I'm going to say, well, actually, it's not. So what is good for you? Very simply, pressure. Pressure is good for you. Pressure is what you can manage. Pressure is what you can cope with. Pressure is healthy. It helps you to thrive in what you're doing. That is pressure. So what is stress? Very simply, stress equals excessive pressure. And that's where you do not want to be. Shows itself in all sorts of ways. It's different for everybody. So stress means different things for different people. Here's your challenge that managers very often have. They have a particular task that needs to be done. They give half the task to one group. They give the task to one group of half a group of people, and then another half of the people. Some people take that task as stress. Other people say, nah, it's pressure. I'm very happy with that. This is the difficulty that managers have, and it is a challenge. Some of their team may see a particular task as pressure, great, can control, no problem, get on with it. And somebody else will see it as stress, can't control, can't manage, and can't get on with it. It is up to manager to then communicate with their employees.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because as you said, the pressure stress continuum probably varies for different people, and by level, but also by task, right? Because some people's, you can give them the same task, but one person might perceive that task as more stressful, and the other seems as more of a pressure. Give those same two people a different task, and they might flip in regards to how they see that.
Exactly.
It makes it really hard for individuals, I can imagine.
Exactly so, and that's what. So what's the answer? So you're right in what you said, and everyone has to say, what is the answer? And I'm going to say one simple word: communicate. Right. So what does that mean in that situation? Talk to your team. How are you managing? How are you coping? Is there anything else that I can do for you? And ask the question, do you feel you're coping okay? Have I asked you to do too much? Is it acceptable levels for you to be able to manage? And then you'll ask the employee to get involved with you to basically say, well, I'm not quite sure of this. I'm not quite sure of that. Fine, let's start a conversation. So the one word to all of that, Richard, is communicate.
I think it starts before where you're pointing at, though, because if I see a good manager, because when I think about pressure, I think about stress, and I might be wrong here. I'm not the expert, so you can tell me if I am. But I'm going to be less pressured by things that I'm good at, and maybe are things which lean into my strengths compared to things which maybe I see as a weakness, or something where maybe I don't get that much enjoyment from.
Okay. I get that. Yeah.
Don't you think actually understanding those things, so when you're giving those tasks to people, you kind of know that you give the strength areas of those tasks to people who use that as strengths rather than to people who maybe see that as a task. Like if you're going to give me admin for the day, you know that that's going to cause me stress. Whereas if you give me opportunity to speak to people and work with people, then I'm going to thrive, and that pressure there is going to be good pressure. I'm going to be motivated by it.
Okay, I get that, and I totally agree with you. But what you're going to do if other stuff has to be done? So
totally agree, yeah.
On your desk, ideally, all I'd say to you is you like between number 1 and 3. I only give you between number 1 and 3. Great, fantastic. That's pressure. Love it, love it, love it. Very motivated, superb. But actually, 4, 5, and 6 needs to be done as well. You say, well, I don't really like that. So you have to somehow help that individual, because it's their role and responsibility to do it, to come out of their comfort zone. And people sometimes do have to come out of their comfort zones. We all have to come out of our comfort zones. We'd all like to do the things that we have fun, enjoyable, good at, great, got lots of greats. They're fantastic. And then you get the point where actually some of the things you have to do which you don't particularly like.
Mhm.
So, you say to somebody who's very creative, well, we've now got to do something that's actually quite numerate. And they may say, well, I'm very creative. I'm big picture stuff. I don't do numbers. I don't do numerate. I don't do that kind of stuff. And you'll say, well, okay, this needs to be done. So you're having to work within your strengths. Yes, of course.
Mhm.
If you're individuals, what is needed, what works for them, which is their strength, absolutely. But when it's not their strength, we have to think of ways around that. Do they need some mentoring? Do they need some coaching? What is it you can do to help them to do that? Can we take them out of their comfort zone, one step at a time, which with mentoring and counseling and coaching should be able to do that. So that would be fine. So what you're really trying to expand that person's comfort zone, which is going to be better for the individual because they're thinking to themselves, well, I didn't think I could do that. And you say, well done, lots of positive affirmations. Well done, you have done it. And they may say, well, I wouldn't want to do it particularly again. And you say, well, you might have to, but you have shown that you can come out your comfort zone and you did it. Well done. Yes, 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 and yes. So we've all come out of our comfort zones all the time.
I don't, yeah, and 100% you have to, because there are going to be tasks within a team that not everybody's going to enjoy all the time. They're going to have the time to do. So I can see that. But for me, team setup is to try and give everybody their strengths, and then you create the awareness, as you said. Like, look, these jobs have to be done. We have to do them somehow. What ones are you going to take? And I think it comes from that team setup to start with. But I agree. And manage what that stress is doing those things maybe you don't enjoy doing.
And also to work, if you're talking about a team, then you've got the opportunity to work to actually empower somebody to give that support and that guidance to somebody else. So with all of that, we're working within a team. So therefore, we're asking certain people to actually help us and to feel okay about it. It's really okay that you're not brilliant at everything. The most important thing is that you feel able, you feel empowered to do what it is that you can do. You feel motivated to do that. And then ask the questions. Put your hand up and say, hello, can somebody give me a hand? And they'll say, yes, of course. How can I help you? And they'll say, well, that's great. How can I help you now? And that's where it works well within the team. So people actually feel it's okay to ask the question, which is, how can I help?
And it's going back to that's that teamwork, right? And from my angle, from sport, as I always do, Carole, is, well, you got a forward who likes scoring goals, well, they still need to defend to be part of the team. So, but that's not something they enjoy doing, but they have to do it for the betterment of the team.
Absolutely. A team is the whole.
Yeah.
And within the whole, you're a piece within that whole, which is absolutely fine. But to recognize the fact is that, and I think this is important, you can't be all things to all people. So if I say to the creative person, I want you to do something that's numerate, they may do it. They don't particularly like it. They may never particularly like it because it goes against who they are as a human being. That may well be, but they can do it. They can dip their toe in the water and do something that's helpful and not cause them any stress. So it is possible. It is possible to do that. And then you've got the wow factor at the end when you think to yourself, do you know something? I did it. And people say to me, because I'm a professional speaker, and people say to me, do you remember the time when you couldn't open your mouth and you couldn't speak in front of a camera? And the answer is too jolly right. I remember thinking to myself, that first time I gave a presentation, however many years ago it was, Richard. And I remember my husband saying to me at the time, maybe you need to take a Valium. I thought, take a Valium to see, but this is only like for a 10-minute presentation. So we grow our comfort zones. We do that. It's a journey. All of this, life is our journey. We know that. It's a bit trite, but it's true. And we learn things the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that reminder of you grow within those uncomfortable spaces, right? Look, you kind of give me an answer here. I'm just going to ask you again to see if there's a different answer. What's the biggest stress challenge in the workplace today compared to when you started?
I'm going to say to you, Richard, they're different. There are different stressors today than there were then. But then when we were there in the 1980s, the 1990s, don't forget, in the 1980s, we had no computers. How I managed a business, a stress management consulting without a computer, I don't know. I ran a successful business and I managed without a mobile phone. And I used mailboxes, like pretty old fashioned. But, it's important to actually say that because not everybody does remember that. You don't remember that. The moment, all you know is that you've got a mobile phone all the time. Well, I didn't have any of that. So therefore, there were different stressors. AI, who would even know what AI was in the 1980s and the 1990s and say whether it's going to be good, bad, or indifferent? So you've got that hybrid working. There was no such thing. Well, actually, pre-COVID, there was very little about it either way. Who would think about having to sit on the edge of your bed and having to manage a business? All that, and talking about Zoom. I remember thinking about Zoom. I remember thinking about that before COVID. One day I'll get used to using Zoom. I don't need it at the moment because I'm always going to go to different places, organizations, and travel here, there, and everywhere. And then, of course, COVID hit. And what a wake-up call that was. So really, it was then a matter of where'd you get your training? So there's me saying, oh, well, I'll do that at some point. The some point is now, at this very moment. So are there different stressors? Yes, there are. However, I'm going to say to you, Richard, people are people the world over. So there may be different stressors that there are that you may have to manage within the workplace. But the fact is that people get tired, they get exhausted, they burn out. Whatever the stressor is, that remains the same. People wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, can't get back to sleep. That is the same. So we were saying the detail may change, which it may do. So therefore, AI may or may not cause you anxiety, whatever that may well be. Hybrid working may or may not cause you anxiety either. But therefore, the detail may be, the causes may be different, but actually we are experiencing it in whoever we are. So going back to the Red Bus Tour, there were different stressors then. We weren't talking about AI. Who knew anything about that? So it's a bit like the world changes. This is a journey. And I'm old enough to say that I remember those particular times.
So what do you see the biggest stress is now? Common. Let's go common stresses. Obviously, these guys are saying
the biggest stressor today is communications. Lack of communication. You may say, oh, for goodness sake, Carole, you've got your phone, you've got everything there. And I'm going to say, yes. People don't necessarily make time to listen to each other. So I'd say you were talking about a communication issue. I really do. Because we are in a situation where, let's be realistic, Richard, no one has time. You book out an hour for this, I book out an hour for this, great. We had to book it 6 weeks ago. But actually, no one's got time for each other. It's really, we don't do that. And I have to train managers to how to make that time. Because I'm not going to say you have no time. What I am going to say is we have to make that time. And that's what we absolutely have to do. That's what managers have to do. Because if we don't communicate in a way that people feel heard, listened to, valued, and worthwhile, then whatever the stressors they're going through, you're not going to actually hear that. So to try and get to the nuts and bolts of what is them causing stress, ask the question. And when I say ask the question, what is the question? The question is to say to somebody, how are you? Wait long enough for an answer. Because instead of it just being a first level courtesy and a, hello, how are you? Fine. Hello, how are you? Great. Hello, how are you? Okay. It's one sentence. It is totally meaningless. It's a courtesy. It's a greeting. For that, I say, excellent. It's a good greeting, but don't expect any answers from that. Because as soon as you ask somebody, how are they? The person doesn't really expect you to tell them how they are. Actually, I feel pretty lousy. Oh, I didn't really want to hear that. It's those sorts of things. So therefore, you're asking me the greatest challenge the industry has today, despite the phone working amazingly, despite Zoom working, Teams working, StreamYard working, whatever it is, works phenomenally. But here's your however. Are we actually listening to each other and talking to each other?
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I find communication comes up in my coaching quite a lot from a different aspect in regards to we maybe don't communicate very well, let alone listen or finding time to do it.
Making time.
Yeah.
Making. We can all find, but we don't all make.
Yeah. Really interesting. You mentioned a couple of times here around the hybrid world. What challenges have you seen that face employees and stress?
you're actually seeing different things. You're seeing the employer who may now say, we want you back to work 5 days a week. You may have the employee saying, actually, I want to be very happy with my 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. I quite like having Monday and Friday at home. So therefore, again, it comes down to a conversation that needs to take place. So therefore, will some employers say, we want you back 5 days a week? May do. What will the employee do? Well, they'll either accept it or, very simply, they'll vote with their feet, because there are plenty of organizations who are in competition with each other. So therefore, they will say, well, actually, I don't want to work like that. In which case, okay, goodbye. They'll say, fine, that's goodbye, and I'll go and do something else somewhere else. So there is this ever-changing movement of people saying what they want. And if it's really important, I want to collect my kids from school on a Monday and Friday. That's what my choice is in my life. That's what I choose to do. Therefore, I need to find a job where that actually suits me and where I can do that. So that's really, people are making decisions now as to what's the most important. And I think if COVID taught us anything, it taught us a lot of things. But let's say one of the things it taught us that we can, again, move those boundaries. We can come out of our comfort zone. We can sit with a computer, a laptop on a bed and manage a business. We can do that. It wasn't ideal. We go back to those COVID days, a bit like, did we really do that? And sometimes you have to pinch yourself to think, my gosh, we really did. But it has changed. It changed the face of the world. It changed the face of work, the working world. It changed that. Because people could then say, well, I'm commuting for 3 hours a day, an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the evening. Why would I want to do that? Does that make me more efficient? The answer is no. And the employer says, but do I trust my employees? Well, if you don't trust your employees, you've got the wrong employees, or you're the wrong employer, one or the other. So therefore, you need to work together with that. So find out what's important to you with your work, because there's nothing more important. We spend so much time doing this. So in which case, you've got to be doing it and feel that I feel valued, I feel worthwhile, I feel important. I feel that my contribution matters. My manager speaks to me, makes time to actually listen to me. So once you've got that, then you're working towards a little phrase of a healthy workplace culture, which is where we all want to be.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I see more and more organizations now bringing people back 4 days, 5 days a week. And I think people are having now a different response to that. We had that obviously initial response is like, okay, what are we going to do? But now people are going back to that. You see people are more and more unhappy, maybe because they're connected more to health and well-being than they were before.
People get used to a different normal. We always said that during COVID, those words are the new normal. After COVID, the new normal, the little phrases always pop up. And to some extent, it is true. It is true. There is a new normal. And I think that if COVID taught us anything, and it did, then it's about like, what's important to you? What do you value most? Is it being able to have a Friday afternoon for a couple of hours in the afternoon? You may find an employee that will give that to you. What is it that you want that's the most important? So therefore, I think when you have a crisis such as COVID was for so many of us, it's actually then thinking to yourself, what was the learning that came out of that? And some of the learning can be, I actually found what I value the most. I've actually found a sense of purpose, which I didn't have before. I was just doing it on and on and on. But actually that actually stopped. And the brake was actually put on. And that brake made me actually think about things slightly differently.
Yeah, I really enjoy that. The outlook. And just people understand their value and the importance to it. I've got a question here from, I think I'm going to say it wrong, maybe Arlene. Thank you for sharing your experience, Carole. What would you say professionals should know and have skills to prevent workplace and individual stress today?
Are we talking about from the individual's point of view?
What would you say?
What would you say a professional should know and have as skills to prevent workplace and individual stress? Okay, well, I think I'm going to go down the route, which I think this is what Arlene's talking about. I think she's talking about I'm going to go down the route of communications. I'm going to go down the route of listening. I'm going to go down the route of active listening. So the difference between active listening is listening. One is actually remember the conversation. One is that before you even remember the conversation, the first thing is to do is to make the time to listen to somebody. Then you have to have the skill set to know how to listen actively listen, not just like listening and it goes over your head and you can't repeat it, but when you could actually repeat that conversation, that's the active listening. And that's a skill set. That's EQ as a skill set. And I would say that every manager needs to have that skill set. And not every manager does, because what happens is many managers are promoted into positions, into post, because of their IQ skills. Technical skills, absolutely fine. They can do that. Here's your however. John, let's just say John is promoted into a position because of his technical skills. Lovely, very nice. Then John is told, we'd like you to become a manager. So therefore, we need you to have some EQ skills. And he goes like, I don't know about that. I don't want to start managing people. Very happy to be promoted. Very happy to get extra money. But do I really want to manage people? Because people are a little bit tricky. And yes, the answer is yes, we are. And so then the organization will say, oh, no, well, you'll learn on the job. And I'm going to say to you, but you don't just learn on the job. So John is promoted into post because of his IQ skills. He's then put into post with 50 people to manage and doesn't know where to start. And people are tricky. We are difficult, not difficult. We're different. That's the word, not difficult. It can be difficult, but we're different. And so therefore, John needs to be trained to know how to manage that conversations, manage people. And it is not an easy one to do because we are all different. As we said before, for some people, a task is seen as pressure. For some people, a task is seen as stress. That's a perfect example. So realistically, to answer Arlene's question here is to say that it's really a matter of communicating, making sure that people, particularly in managerial positions, is to make sure that they are given those skills, the skills-based training. It's not complicated, the active listening skills training. It's truly not complicated, but it has a huge impact. So let's just rewind on that to say managers are promoted usually because of IQ skills. Managers are necessarily promoted because of EQ skills, and get them trained. Simple, period.
Yeah. But I think that's where the problem within the workplaces are now, is that there is a lot of pressure on managers. And as we know, 82% of managers are accidental and have no formal training, right? So you can see why there's this impact on stress, but also workplaces in general.
A manager needs to be able to say to somebody, how are you? Wait long enough for an answer. And if the answer isn't as they think, that isn't the answer that they're thinking of, if somebody actually goes, well, I'm okay, and then it's up to the manager to say, how is okay? Are you really okay? They say, well, I've got a lot on my mind. Now that manager at that particular point knows that there's a conversation to be had. Here's the challenge. Does the manager have the conversation at that particular point? Or do they put that person on hold until another time? And I'm going to say to you, it depends. If that manager, that person can close the door, make it confidential, turn off their phones, 100% turn off their phones, turn off their monitors and say, how can I help you? And wait long enough for a silence, wait for the person to come out of a silence. If that is the right moment for them to be able to do that, then do it. Here's the however. If it's not the right moment because that manager is going from one thing to another and the hello and how are you was meant to be a quick conversation, throwaway greeting, if that's not the right time, then the manager can say to that individual, well, it looks like maybe you might like a few minutes to have a few minutes chat. Why don't we grab a coffee? And the individual will say, yes, that's a good idea. Thank you. I'd like that. So look, why don't we make a coffee time? Why don't we make it 4 o'clock this afternoon? Can you make that? Yes, that's fine. Close the door, turn off our phones, and let's have a conversation. That means you have made time for the individual. You haven't stopped everything that you're doing. But what you have actually done is to put that person on hold. Then when you've put them on hold, make sure you turn up for that conversation.
Yeah, present, as you said, everything turned off and just be in that moment, right? It's interesting. So I want to take this then into the next bit. I think we're talking about it now, is like that difference between the organization and the team manager's kind of responsibility, and then the individual's responsibility for stress. What's the line between the two, do you think?
They both go in hand. The individual, okay, let's rewind. They both go in hand. So therefore, the organization can come up with the policies, procedures, everything that actually sets the scene. They can train their managers at that particular point. They can have stress management workshops, all stress management presentations, all of that is possible. So that's up to the organization to offer that. Then it's up to the individual to feel, let's get the right word, the individual to feel confident enough to actually say something. So if the manager has created this healthy workplace culture where people feel valued, where they feel recognized, they feel they're accepted for who they are, that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, then we have got that's the organization. The other hand, the employee then will feel, I feel it's okay to say something. Mm-hmm. So therefore, whose responsibility is it to manage stress in the workplace? I'm going to say to you, it's a dual responsibility. It's a responsibility for the organization to create the healthy workplace culture where that individual feels safe to actually speak up and speak out. And because you've got the healthy workplace culture, then the individual can say, that's okay, I can actually start talking. So I can speak about it. Confidentially, yes. So where would they go? They might speak to a manager. They may speak to the employee assistance program, may speak to a counseling service, may speak to a trusted colleague. So that you've got something on your mind, sometimes you don't want to take it to management. Sometimes you think to yourself, just need to chat it through with somebody. Then find somebody who's a good listener. That's what you want to find. Find somebody who's a good listener. And the chances are is that person could be a trusted colleague. So in your where you are in your space, find out who are the best people for you to speak to. Find out as to who are your listeners. I always regard the people we have around us as a dream team. What is our dream team? Well, in your dream team, you'll have some people who are good listeners. You'll have some people who are lousy listeners, but they are very good advisors. Some people who are supporters, some people who are not, but they're there for you. So really your dream team will have lots of different people. So therefore, if you want some advice, you won't go to the person who's a good listener because maybe they're not particularly good on advice, and vice versa. So it's, if you want a listener, don't go to your advisors. You need to know who's a part of your dream team. Who are the people in your life? And your life will be people at work, people at home, could be somebody in another country. Just make your time. You be there for somebody else as well. This is not all about take. This is actually about giving and taking. So therefore, if you're there for somebody, then they can be there for you at the same time.
Agreed. So then there is the obviously the workplace included in this. So the difference between the workplace and the individual's responsibility. Let's look at the individual now as a standpoint outside of the organization. What can they do to manage stress?
Huge amounts. It's as simple as look after your body. Here we have a machine, and your machine needs to be looked after. You can't delegate it to anybody else, as I said before. So you have to look after your machine, which means you have to exercise, you have to eat healthily, you have to manage your time, you need to know how to say no. You need to build, your body needs to be resilient. The organization cannot do that for you. So there's an individual responsibility to look after yourself. So therefore, nobody can make you eat the right foods, but you'll know whether you're eating crisps and sandwiches all day long and not eating sufficient nutrients. You know that. You'll know whether, if the phone is nagging you all the time, going off. You'll know whether you're not turning it off. So there's lots of things you can do. You'll know if you're actually having meetings 24/7. Is it necessary? There's so much that we can do as individuals. You could be mindful, go for a walk, listen to the rustling of the leaves. Autumn time's gorgeous time to go walking. Are we doing that? Probably are. Here comes the next question. Are you doing it enough? And I'm not saying it is, because however much you're exercising, the chances are, I'm saying the chances are, is that you could probably exercise more. And however well you're eating, the chances are, again, you could probably eat better. So therefore, can we actually just take some time for ourselves? That's what we need to do. It is our responsibility. It is up to us to know what it is we should do. It is up to us to implement it, and nobody else can do it for us.
I agree there. As you said, I think there's always something you can do, depending on where the stress is coming from.
Well, there's something you can always do wherever it is coming from, because wherever the external factors are, there's always something that one can do ourselves. We sometimes think there isn't, but there really is. There's always something we can do, and sometimes we need to talk to somebody else to actually send that back to ourselves, that responsibility back to ourselves.
Completely agree. Look, last couple of questions around the Stress Awareness Week and the summit. What can people expect from this Stress Awareness Week summit on Wednesday, right?
Yes, the summit. What can they expect? They'll probably expect to hear me talking quite a lot on radio and TV. But more importantly than that is just raising that profile. Raising that profile as much as possible. Raising it not just for 1 week, but raising it for us ongoing throughout the year. Nationally, internationally, for us as human beings. So when I created Stress Awareness Week and Day, we also created the Stress and Wellbeing Summit. That is taking place on Wednesday. It's online. Everybody can join us. So that'd be lovely to see people there just joining us from different organizations or individuals. So the Stress Summit online is all available on isma.org.uk.
Fantastic. And how can organizations and people get involved? Obviously, joining ISMA, what else can people do this week and inside their organizations to carry on that awareness outside of this week?
Right. So therefore, I would say put stress management training and employee well-being top of the agenda. Make sure you're talking about it all the time, not just for 1 week. 1 week as a focus is a highlight. Lovely. We've got to do it on a regular basis. It needs to become part of the culture of you and a part of the culture of the organization. So therefore, use it as a time to actually say, we're going to do something, and make sure you do. Make sure it doesn't just disappear. We all have to make a priority for ourselves and for our human beings around us, and for our employees around us and people around us. We need to be able to do that. So therefore, if ISMA and Stress Awareness Week gives you greater encouragement and motivation to actually do something, do it, and that's great. But make sure you do it ongoing. Make sure it's your responsibility, A, to look after yourselves, or B, to actually make sure the organization is shouting from the treetops, how can we help you? And you are all of value.
Yeah, I love it. Look, last question, Carole. What's your one takeaway for people from today? What's your one takeaway to help people or employees manage stress?
Talk to each other. Make time for each other. Make time, talk to each other, ask the question. The question is, how are you? And the one takeaway is, wait long enough for an answer. And if the person doesn't look particularly happy, book a time to have a coffee. If we can take that out, where human beings value other human beings, then I have to say the campaign is a success. The campaign continues. It doesn't stop at the end of the week. The campaign continues for each and every one of you listening. No question of that. So ask the question, how are you? If you feel that there's a difference if you feel that you're not getting the answer other than just, yeah, fine, they may not be. So where is it for our responsibility to take away from this week? Ask the question, wait long enough for an answer, and book a time for that coffee.
Yeah, I love that. I thought you might say communicate, so I'm glad I guessed correctly. Carole, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope this week goes really well for you. And yeah, I appreciate you sharing all this insight for people. Obviously, people can follow you and connect with you on here, and I presume that's where you'll be sharing a lot of your information. Otherwise, as you said, you shared the ISMA website for people to join as well on Wednesday, and I can imagine there'll be a lot more kind of resources there as well, right?
Yes, there's a lot of resources. There's lots of free resources. Just download those. When you go onto the ISMA website, go onto isma.org.uk, go onto events, you'll find Stress Awareness Week. You'll find about the Stress Summit, Stress and Wellbeing Summit. Join us. You know, what we're saying is this is a campaign. The more people that are pulling together and doing what we're saying because they think it's important, the more that actually gives us extra strength. Let us actually do that. And thank you very much, Richard, for the invitation to have you on your program.
No problem. Thank you. Stay where you are. Everybody else got a week off next week, surprisingly. Crazy. So keep an eye out for the one in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.